promise peace. But what happens when it becomes just another thing to get right? I'm your host Shreya, and on today's episode, The Soul Mirror, we welcome Florence Doisneau, a self realization coach who is helping people to untangle the paradox of presence with deep roots in yoga, wellness, and transformative coaching. Florence brings clarity to the overwhelm and helps seeker to trade pressure for peace and performance for presence. So, welcome, Florence. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Well, thank you, Shreya, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
And Florence, what exactly is the mindfulness paradox, and why do so many people feel more anxious trying to be mindful?
Well, if we take the example of meditation, for instance, first of all, there's a lack of clarity as to what that entails per se. And because there's this lack of clarity, we all tend to place unrealistic expectations. For instance, one of the common cues is um, free your mind or quiet your mind. The thing is that when we sit and attempt to quiet the mind, that's usually when it feels the most noisy. So it's very easy for people to think that they're not doing it right, to lose patience and give up. And they think it's just not for them or that they're just not cut for it. When ultimately, a number of the different meditation techniques and practices are about the observation of thoughts. And it's through a regular observation of the thinking that it becomes easier and easier to detach ourselves from the thinking. And that subtle nuance is enough, again, to bring a lot of people to give up altogether on meditation. Also, when we say meditation, that like I said, that entails so many different practices and schools and techniques, and it's difficult for people to realize that, well, meditation is an umbrella term, just like saying exercise. And when you say exercise, we could mean aerobics, we could mean walk, we could mean CrossFit, it could mean gentle stretching. So ultimately, when we say meditation, we need to realize that that means there are outcomes that we may be aiming for. Maybe we're looking to be more aware of the physical sensations. Maybe we're looking to calm our breathing and calm the mind. Maybe we're looking to find clarity and inspiration around the project. So, as many outcomes as they are, it becomes easier then to match a particular technique to an outcome. So, all this to say that because we use broad terms that tend to be then matched by individuals' preconceptions, most individuals land themselves into frustration and don't see the value of quieting the mind and of accessing to or practicing a certain technique. And the other pitfall as well is to confuse the technique for the state. A technique is or practice is nothing but a vehicle. Ultimately, the state of well-being is something that's already inside of us. So that too, that can be a little disconcerting for people because they get very attached to how they do things instead of realizing that it's about how they feel, what they connect with, what state they enter, what emotion or feeling they're tending to.
Yes, that's so beautiful, and thank you for sharing this with us. And also, was there a moment in your own journey where mindfulness stopped helping and started pressuring?
Well, to some extent, not so long ago. For a long time, I've had a morning practice, and this year, I actually found myself, I realized that I was going through the motions of that practice and that it had become so automated that I wasn't really in it. My level of presence was not there. So thanks to that realization, I was able then to, let's say, shift gears and come back to what the practice is meant to serve, which is, again, that sense of connection, that connection to well-being, to inner peace. And I am clear that it doesn't matter how long we have been practicing or how long we have been in the field of wellness. We're all at risk at one point or another of falling prey to automation and lose track of what really is essential.
Yeah, that inner tension between striving and surrender is something so many of us secretly feel.
Mm.
And also, you teach self realization. So,
Mhm.
how is that different from simply being mindful?
Um, there's no fundamental difference. I would say that being mindful, it speaks of how you feel. Uh, when I'm mindful of something, I'm bringing my awareness, I'm bringing my attention. Self realization is what unfolds from that presence. It's the it's the true self coming through intuition, through wisdom. It's what is communicated to us and how we are guided to show up in the world, if you will. Um, the broad stroke is we talk about personal development. So we all have in mind that we want to hone skills and develop our abilities one way or the other. So we join classes, we participate in webinars and all sorts of other ways to learn and become better at something. But what may happen is when we keep our focus so much on the outside, the skill set, the what we're aiming for, we may be losing touch with how that is relevant to that deeper part of ourselves. So in self-realization, we reground ourselves into that inner truth. We learn and recognize who we are at our core. And when we connect that with our goals, when we connect that with the skill sets we are developing, not only does it make it more enjoyable because it's authentic, it also is far more powerful because we do things with more heart, more soul.
Yes, that is such a gentle awareness. And it sounds like a homecoming.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
also, your programs, like the Realization Catalyst, offer group growth experiences. So,
Mhm.
what happens when mindfulness becomes a shared space, not a solo practice?
That's a great question. There's such a benefit in hearing one another because we're all at a bit different stages, different speeds. And sometimes somebody asks a question or shares their own insight. And the way they formulate it, it enables another individual to catch up in a way, to maybe see something that they were starting to touch upon, but they weren't quite there yet. So that communication, the coming together really helps everybody to rise up. It's like that they say the tide rises all boats. That's what I feel a group setting does for individuals. It's kind of, I've experienced that too in yoga classes when I was on my mat. I know there's some poses that for me are a little more challenging, and I noticed that when I'm in class with other people, there's an energy to the room, and that energy helped me a lot of times to maybe find that little tweak or notice that small detail in my pose that just opened up, something clicked, and something new appeared, a new realization appeared. I find that a group setting, when you put people together with a common goal of helping each other, being curious and open, there's nothing like it. It's so transformative.
Yes, that's so true. And also, how do communities help us to access deeper presence or sometimes distract from it?
Well, I think a lot has to do with the energy of the community, and that becomes the responsibility of the host to guide people um, and kind of be the tuning fork for the rest of the participants, setting the tone for everybody else. And by setting that tone and be grounded in the space you want to create, then I think quite naturally, people who again share a common interest find themselves aligning with that tone.
Yeah. It's so beautiful to think of presence not as isolation but as a deeper connection.
Yeah, yeah, deeper connection to ourselves, to
Yeah.
maybe some things that are need to be unearthed inside of us, but it's also the element of deep listening. When I am in conversation, and it's not so much about the exchange of information, where,
Mm.
let's say, I'm talking with a friend and this friend is opening up about something personal, the information is kind of secondary.
Yeah.
We're not in a course trying to do something technical. And what happens is that when we're in conversation, a lot of times our own thinking tends to override the the connection with the other
Yeah.
person. And by being mindful of that and willing to set aside the thought conversation and really tune in with the other person, that's what fosters a deeper bond. And that gives a sense to the other person of being heard and seen in what they are sharing.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And also, you often speaks of living authentically.
Mhm.
So, in your view, how does authenticity relate to mindfulness?
With mindfulness and presence, we access something true. And in that truth translates as authenticity. When it's it's not always easy for us to have a good read on ourselves. And it's not always easy to convey and express what we feel and think. So some things tend to be lost in translation. Nonetheless, the more the more connected to our heart we are, and the more connected we are to the person we talk to, the more likely we are exchanging a clean and true message. And that's what I think of as authentic, when there is little to no distraction, little to no parasites on the line.
That's such a profound reminder. And also, for those who feel like mindfulness is just another box to check,
Mhm.
what is a more liberating way to begin?
I find a lot of comfort in the truth that every moment, every thought, every action, every word is an opportunity. So it's moment to moment, and it's every single moment. It's it's not something that we. It's not something that is just to be scheduled.
Yeah.
It's available always at infinite. So even if I realize that, oh, this morning I was a little distracted, I didn't really pay attention to what I was doing, well, reset. From this point on, I can bring my attention to what I'm doing. I can be mindful. I can really bring my A game from this moment on.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And after this beautiful conversation, if my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Best way is to go to the website. My website is realizeunlimited.com.
Okay, and I will make sure to attach all the details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you and have a conversation with you because you're a wonderful person. And thank you for joining and sharing all your experiences, your knowledge, your stories with us. This is really, really an honor for us. And to all my listeners, mindfulness isn't a task, it's a tuning. And Florence just reminded us that presence isn't about perfection, but about permission to pause, to feel, to be. So if you have been chasing peace like it's another achievement, maybe today is the day you let it arrive gently, naturally, and wholly yours. So until next time, keep reflecting your soul's light outward.